testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing.
Okay, if you give me just a second. Okay. Well, I'm going to mute it after. Hello.
Hello.
I'm here. I'm going to mute my microphone for a little bit because we have some visitors. So, but I'm here.
I'm here too.
I am also here.
Me too. Do I have video going out or just audio?
Who said that? Was it Alex or David?
Alex.
No, Alex, I don't have video for you.
What's going on? I'm gonna leave the call and try to get back on.
Okay. So the spreadsheet said that David was also doing local storage. Did he do that presentation as well?
I did it the first week, I believe, we had our meeting.
Okay, and you did local storage?
I did.
Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be a repeat.
On the website as well, of what I did.
Okay.
It's a little ways, but I did do it.
Well, no, that's fine. I don't care. I also, that was also what I was on tap to present today. So.
Okay.
So I'll throw out, if we want to just skip mine, that is fine with me. If we want to just, do the 1 or 2 presentations that we have slated, I mean, please don't throw me in that there briar patch.
Nice try.
Well, it was worth a shot.
No, it'll actually be good to have that gone over a second time, in my opinion.
Well, hopefully it helps.
Yeah.
I kind of put it together by the skin of my teeth, so we'll see how it goes. But
what's going on with my camera? Are we waiting for anyone? There's no camera connected. What the heck? Uh-oh.
Looks like Kate is on Slack and he asked a question, but Kate says, "I'm here and ready. Does anyone know if Brother James is joining us?"
I'm going to restart my computer. It'll take just a sec, and then I'll get back on. Something's up with my camera.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, I posted the link for everybody. Hopefully Kate sees that soon and hops on. But other than that, I think we're just, I guess, seeing if Alex can get his video going. But we are recording, so if you want to start, that's fine.
It's me and who else that's going?
I think Alex and Kate.
Okay. Well, I'll wait for Alex to bring his stuff back online, and then if you want, I can go ahead and jump in. Mine's probably not going to be real long. I'll be right back. I'm just going to check on something. Okay, I'm back.
There we go.
Hey, there we go.
All right, cool. Let me get my screen right because I'm presenting, right? Thought I was.
Yeah. Oh, and here is Cade. Well, are we ready to go?
Hit it.
Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and lead off. So my presentation's on local storage, on storing and retrieving data, arrays, associative arrays, and objects. Some of this actually, like arrays and associative arrays, was covered somewhat in my first presentation. First, talking a little bit about what is HTML local storage. Now, web applications can store data locally within the user's browser. Before HTML5, that was done through cookies, which were included in every server request. Local storage is more secure, and large amounts of data can be stored locally without affecting website performance. And the storage limit is far larger, at least 5 megabytes, and the information is never transferred to the server, which is more secure. There are two types of web storage objects. There's session storage and local storage. Session storage is only available within the browser tab or the Windows session, and it's designed to store data in a single web page session. Local storage is kept even between browser sessions. This means data is still available when the browser is closed and reopened, and it's also instantly available between tabs and windows. There are, as far as how to do it, this is the general code that you'd be looking for as far as storing it and storing variables and information in session storage. Make note that the interface is identical between session storage and local storage, and that those are global objects. And you can use the set item method to set the key and its value, and then get item to retrieve it. Now, we can only store strings, which is a significant drawback, but we can get around that through using JSON, or I call them JSON objects. Now, as far as simple data, arrays, associative arrays, and objects, I actually have an example of doing this. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So how many people are familiar with the party game Mafia? Anybody ever play Mafia? You're all muted, so nobody's going to answer me. I really like the party game Mafia, and I am actually in a group that plays that game online. And a lot of times I'll be the one who does the signups for the various games. So for my project, I created a little Mafia signup form using these principles. So let's just do a quick thing here. My name is Richard. Preferred game, we have different like themes. So let's just say superhero. Start date, let's put today. And email, put in my email address. And when we click add, it stores it. And I've also told it to immediately call that here. So let's say Jim wants to play Super Mario. And he can start today. And it's j@j.com, for example. And we add it, and there it is. So let's take a quick look at the code as far as what we're doing here. So first of all, we've got our contact form. We're going to take the name, the preferred game, the start date, and the email, and we're going to make these into IDs. We're going to submit it, and when that happens, we're going to gather that information by the elements. We're going to put them into variables, and then we're going to create an array with name, game, date, and email, and parse it into a JSON file. If the JSON file is not there, then we're going to go ahead and just create a new one. Then we're going to push it and basically put it out into the tables. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and update the table. We've got our array that's all of this is going to be stored into, and something else just to show that it works. Where is it? Here we go. If I close it and then open it again, you can see that my data is still stored there because it is stored in a local file. And I knew exactly where that was in my code a few minutes ago, but I'm afraid I can't remember at the moment. But so yeah, this is something that's very, very useful to be able to store information in a local file and to be able to recall it. And I mean, the number of uses for something like this are nearly infinite. You know, the whole purpose of a mobile application is to transmit data or to store data in such a way that it can be retrieved easily. So this is how you do it. And thank you for watching. Yay, all right. Now I'm going to go and watch the other one because I'm sure it was better. And everybody is still muted.
I was just looking at your code.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that looks really good. There's a lot there. It's way more complex than what I did this week.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Let me know if you want me to go up or down, or if you want me to email it out or anything. Any questions, any comments, any concerns, any baking recipes?
So the only place that you're actually using the JSON is in the add contact, or did I miss another part?
It's there in the add contact. It's there in the delete. It's there in updating the table.
Okay.
Yeah, it's used in a couple places.
And it's calling the same file, or is there a different JSON file every time?
It's calling the same file.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just a local storage basically stored on their machine. They just have one per site basically.
Right.
Okay.
Now, when we do these signups, we always just stick them in a forum and somebody goes through and puts them in an Excel sheet. But I think I may actually have to implement this because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's really cool. How many people do you guys have come play that? Or no, online, how many people do you have play?
Each game averages 20 to 25 people, and the most we've ever gotten is 3 games running at once.
So maybe we should talk on the side, but I've heard it's very similar to Werewolf.
Yeah, it's the same game. It's
It's
just different flavor. For Mafia, you have Godfathers and crime related things, and for Werewolf, it's more of a fantasy type skin almost for it. So.
and we'll talk after some other
Yeah, we can talk offline about it if you have any questions.
Very cool. So is David? I'm sorry, have you guys done?
I'm done.
Is David? Are you presenting tonight?
No, I present next week.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just you and me, Alex, after Richard.
What's that?
I think it's just you and me, Cade, and Richard.
Well, mine's quick, and I don't want to go after you because then you'll make me look bad. So
I doubt that.
I want to go. I want to.
Are we joking for the spot after me because nobody's going to look bad?
Oh, you did great.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Too kind.
to go after, I don't want to go after both of you. It's bad enough I'm going after one. So I can start. Let me share my screen. I can't see you guys, but I guess that doesn't matter. How do I screen share? There. And then over here. So can you guys see? Is it too small for you? I don't know how to. Am I on mute? No.
No, you're not on mute. I can see it.
Okay. So I did the CSS animation portion, and I didn't do a PowerPoint because it's like the third of the 3, and I spent all my time on a PowerPoint last time, a few times ago, and I didn't get any of the code stuff. So I'm just going to do bare bones stuff, and I think I have more to do on this. I don't think he's going to accept this as finished because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of JavaScript in this. So basically, I did just on the page here, I broke it down. There's the menu and everything, and then just below that, I've got 2 examples here, and this one. Basically, you just let me scoot this down. You just change these numbers. You can scroll this up and down, and it changes the height. Of course, it's not working. Send that out again. Oh, if it broke. Okay, there it goes. Okay. So you can scroll up there, or you can just type a number in there, and it changes based on what's there. So it starts off at 100, and if you go up past 100, then it will scroll out. I don't know why. I've been trying to figure out why it's easing for the width and not the height. I added the height in after the width, and it's here. Maybe if you guys see something, I'm not sure. But I basically just created this div here, and then there's a script that acts on it, and it calls it by the name, and then there's a style transition, and it's pretty simple right there. And then that's triggered by these 2 inputs. So you can just change the input, and then it changes. And you can do this for a ton of different attributes within CSS for the style. Color, I mean, you can change you can make the thing slide around the page, y-axis, x-axis, all that stuff. And it's pretty simple. And I think this is one of the more simple ways to do. That's like very little JavaScript here. But the next one, and again, like this is just a very simple JavaScript trigger for this animation that is here. And I rocked the keyframes back and forth, and there's two things happening. This, when you press the drop button, the ball will start bouncing, and it basically starts off at a Y. It starts off on the page where it sits at 0 for the Y-axis, and then it transforms or translates Y up 80 pixels. And then I have some things going on with the shadow that I created here that is like the reverse of the motion. So the shadow starts off at 20 pixels, not in the x-axis, only down from the y-axis, and then moves up 80 as this moves down 80 as the ball moves up 80. So like they bounce away from each other. And then it's just the trigger is all that the CSS is, not CSS, the JavaScript is. So I'm probably gonna have to, I'm sure I'm gonna have to add more examples that are more JavaScript intensive. But this, I think the animation's fun, just bounces forever. And all the JavaScript does is pulls the ID, gets the element by the ID, and then changes the one of the styles, the animation play state, which is here, from paused to running, and that's it. So when the page loads, it's just paused. And if I was to change this to running, it's just running from the beginning. So that's why I didn't want it to do that. I wanted it to start paused. There. I know that was short and simple, and there, I don't know. I think the CSS stuff is, I think I could have gotten a lot more in depth on it, and I plan to do that. So does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, have you turned in your fluency yet?
I haven't.
You haven't? Okay.
Which
Because
one?
I had a question for Brother James, because right now I have some on my page. Actually, I'll just show you guys what I've got right now to kind of explain. Okay, can you see this right here?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've actually been integrating all of my features into this website. I'm going to build a family tree for my family. And so right now I've got this card flipping going on.
That's so cool.
And so it does it on hover, which is just being triggered by CSS and not JavaScript. So I asked Brother James about like double dipping. I was like, can I figure this out later, how to just click on here instead of hover, do like an on-click event or with JavaScript? Or would that can be considered double dipping, like if I change that feature later? And he's like, no, it's actually encouraged that you do that. Double dipping is fine. Okay. So just with yours, Alex, I was going to say, you know, if you just wanted to show like the CSS at first and then incorporate some more JavaScript, you probably could get, you know, points differently. Okay, cool. In different topics. Or I know in the Fluency template, you can put in there integrated with, and then put both topics. So just a thought there on how you're considering turning it in and what you want to add to it later on or whatever. But just a thought.
Okay, that's good to know. I like that.
So
for the clicks, what I've done in the past is you look at the class, look up toggling classes. Okay. And so you basically turn on a class, and that will start a transition, and you apply the finish state to that class in your CSS. So that's one way you can flip it on click, and then you create a on click event.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked into it a whole lot. I've just, done the hover. I kind of like the hover, but I was like, why not throw some JavaScript in there, just to get it to click eventually, rather than having it automatically flip when you go onto the card, because maybe you want to look at the front of the card a little bit longer and then do a click or something.
Or if you wanted to look at more than one at the same time.
Right, that's true.
So that's another thing I was thinking of. What I'm a little unclear at the difference between the last 3 weeks or whatever, 11, 12, and 13. The animation versus transition versus the other one. They all seem real similar to me.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear on that too.
They're all different things to CSS. There's the transform that I went over last week. And that's just telling it to move things, scale things. It's kind of, you're just putting what the final state is. It doesn't actually do any movement. You're just kind of setting, you use it to kind of say this is a starting point or this is an ending point. So you started at scale 0 and it's going to go to scale 500. It's going to scale really huge, and the transforms just setting those. The transitions and the animations will move it from one to the other, is what that does. That's what will actually change it. Some things I've learned about the transitions. Let's see. Transitions will go forward, and then when you remove it, it will go backwards, back to where it was. The animation, so the transitions are also more of you don't have any keyframes. You have a little less control, but it's really nice for something that you want to hover over. It highlights it like you got a very subtle change of color, so it will just animate from, or just transition from one color to the other. When you hover off, it goes back the other way. The animation, you can control keyframes a bit more, so it can get a little bit more complicated. But with the animations, it just kind of keeps playing until you tell it to stop. Or whatever you tell it to do, that it just runs once, or but the animation doesn't go backwards. It just, you can either have it, I believe, loop, or it
I have an animation direction on here. I'm highlighting it right now, and I set it to alternate, and then it just goes back and forth and back and forth.
So you can do that, I guess. So the animation does have more control over it, because you do have the keyframes you can do. You can go from 0 to 10% to 50% to 80%, then to 100%, and have different things happen in there. The transition is just kind of takes the starting position and takes the ending position and just kind of fills in the space in between and just goes to it. If I remember correctly, transitions also what they call degrade easier, because you have a beginning state and an end state, and so if it doesn't animate, it just ends up on the end state. The animation doesn't degrade, like if the animation's not, if it doesn't support animations, they don't see anything. Because you really don't have an end state set up, where with the transitions you have a start and an end.
So I have a question for you now. I was just gonna get in here and say I have an example of a transition, one that I use for my menu. If you guys can see my screen right now, I have just changed the background color, and you can see it's like 0.5 seconds to where it's changing to gray. And I use the transition property on that. So just right down here, I've got the background 0.5 seconds, color 0.3 on hover. And so I use that for my transition. And then for my flips, I call that an animation. Now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, that's
Are we-
animation.
are we supposed to use, I guess, the animation property to be considered animation? Because I was thinking like, because I've got transform in here as well as transition, I kind of thought that some of those different properties made up an animation like
An
this.
animation is a separate tag that you can
Oh,
that I believe he wants us to learn. So an
Okay.
transition and an animation are different.
okay. Well,
They're
I'll have
different
to
tags in the CSS.
submit that a little bit differently then. I handed in my fluency today under it being animation. I guess I was confused there.
So they can kind of do very similar things, but they both have some advantages or disadvantages in just trying to figure out what you want to do. I'm trying to remember what I learned in my CSS class. I can't remember if in the CSS class they kind of recommended if you can do it in a transition, it's usually better to do it in a transition. And I believe most things you see are in transitions. Animations are usually a little bit more complicated, I think. Or you can do more complicated things, I believe. You can fine tune it a lot more.
And that's just all CSS though, right?
Uh-huh.
Keyframes and anime, all that stuff's just CSS.
It is. And that's the thing with, and so you can trigger it kind of like, we just saw, there's you, Alex, that just did the animation. Like you triggered the animation, you started it playing by using JavaScript. In the same way you can start a transition or end a transition with JavaScript as well. The main thing I've seen with transitions of how to start is you basically add a class that moves stuff, and you already have in your CSS. So in your CSS, let's say I set that I'm going to transition the color. I just say color is
Is that me? Did I lose you guys?
No, I think he just. quit
I'm still
screening.
here.
He froze up.
Yeah. Kind of the conversation kind of interesting because my presentation tonight is on JavaScript events, and what we've been talking about has been very similar to what I got to present, but it's all been CSS, in a CSS file rather than through JavaScript. So we're getting a little redundancy tonight.
That's good though. Maybe it'll make it clear to me. That's good.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they all tie together.
So it kind of feels like different aspects of CSS are called different things. Maybe I'm totally off base, but like changing color would be a I don't know if that's transform or I don't even know what they all are. If you're animating something, I feel like you're changing its shape or moving it across the screen or something like that. But if you're changing the size of something, then you're transforming it maybe. Maybe
Well,
animation combination.
I thought you could change color in however, it just depends. So like can't you change color in transition, and you can change color in animation? It's just whatever you pair the parent with,
So in my transition, I'm pretty sure it was the speed of the color and at what time it changed to the background. So not necessarily just changing the color, but at which speed it's going.
Mm-hmm. Is David still with us, or did he? He disappeared for a minute.
I think he froze up. There's something else I wanted to mention, and that I forgot to mention it was, and I'm sure you guys already know this, but this is the long form of what's that, sweetie?
Good night, Daddy.
Good night. Good night. Love you guys. Oh.
Kiss her. Kiss her.
Okay. I had to kiss her. All right. This is the long form down here, starting with animation. This is a long form, and you can stack all these things up, the name and the place state, the duration, all this stuff, it goes in an order. And if you leave it blank, it just defaults to what the default is. But you don't have to have all of this stuff here. You could just have this all in like one line. I was going to do an example of both, but I didn't get to that.
So what would be the first tag then on the inline style for that?
I'm not sure. I closed that window.
Oh,
I had it up earlier, and there was a YouTube video where the guy was explaining that, and
I suppose if you knew CSS very well, that would be easy to you could just compute that in your head. But for me, I don't know CSS very well, and it's nice. It takes a lot longer and a lot more space on the page, but what you've got there is easy to read. I mean, you know exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and if it's not performing like you want it to, you know right where to go to change it.
Exactly. If you've got 3 zeros in a list or in a little kind of like a list there, you don't know which one to change.
Right. Yeah, CSS is amazing, but when it gives you troubles, I have a struggle trying to figure out what to change and what's causing the problem.
That's why I change one thing at a time.
Yeah, I think that to learn the developer tools in your Chrome is something that would be really helpful for your CSS to see what's going on. I haven't acquired that skill quite yet, but I was watching one of my TAs for my other classes the other day, and he just had his browser up with the developer tools up and would go back and forth and just to see like what margins were doing, what the padding was doing, and why it was acting the way it was. Plus, my CSS the other day wasn't changing up when I made some changes in my IDE. And I didn't know this, but I had to clear my browser cache.
Yeah, if you load it so many times, it just goes back and pulls that cache, or you can do a hard refresh, and sometimes that'll fix it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I was completely lost. I'm like, this is not changing. What's the deal here? And so, anyways.
That's why the height on my box is not easing. Because the width is, but the height isn't.
So go do a hard refresh on it and see if it fixes.
Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. On a Windows, I think it's is it Shift 5 or something? I don't know what it is on Mac.
Double R is for the Mac. Nope.
Oh.
So weird. It's the same exact code too. It's like nothing is different. Height 2 seconds, ease 0 seconds, delay. I think that's delay. I copied and pasted and then changed it from height to width. Is that not a transition?
I would say it's a transition.
Wait, so what's it supposed to be doing?
So it starts off, let me just reset. So when you change, it's set at 100 basically. And if you change this number up, it's supposed to eat. Okay, so that one jumped. This one eases over 2 seconds. See how it goes slow?
Uh-huh.
Starts slow, goes faster, then stops slow. This height just pops to the.
Basically jumps.
It jumps. Yeah, there's no transition. So the ease is the transition, the slow transition that it's not doing.
So this is kind of a silly suggestion, but I had in a previous class, I had some trouble with CSS, and the TA, I was doing the same thing, was just taking lines of code that I'd wrote and copied them and changed them a little bit to fit the item. And he had me on the one that I copied, I deleted it and typed it out, and it functioned like it was supposed to. And I don't know if it would happen here or if it was just a fluke that it started to work that way or what, but
let's find out.
Wait, so your CSS is in your JavaScript? Or are you targeting that with your, because that's in a script tag, right?
Yeah, and I think that's like a shortened version of.
Oh, that's my first question. I was like, why is that in a script tag? So I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
And the JavaScript events I did tonight, all the styling is in the HTML under a style tag, not under a script tag, but.
Height. Huh. So have you tried putting it over in your CSS, the transition?
No. Let me see if this does it. I hope this works. That'd be cool.
No, sorry.
No, that's I when you mentioned that, I had done that before. I had to retype part of it and it worked. So I hadn't thought of that on this one though. But for some reason this works fine. It's just the height isn't working.
Huh. Did David hear that question before he rose?
I don't know. I just got back on. My internet just kind of crashed on me, so I just restarted my computer.
So Alex is wondering why his height is jumping with the ease. It keeps on jumping, whereas the width eases really smoothly.
And I switched them and then they switched. So it has to do, maybe it has to do with, it's whichever one is second in this.
Oh, what I think it's doing is when you're setting the transition, it's probably overriding the one before it. So when you put transition, it's saying this is what the transition is.
Oh,
So the second one overwrites?
Yes, so you're overriding it. So what you'd probably want to do is you put, so take the width one and put a comma after your seconds, and then you take the other one and put it afterwards. So you can do a, you can put them all in one line. So width 2 seconds, ease for 0 seconds. Just the, yeah, that part. You kind of almost remove the quotations right before the H, right before the height, so it's all in one quote together. Yeah, like that. And so now you don't have one overriding another one.
hey.
All right.
Woo!
Cool.
Nothing like someone that knows what they're doing.
That's why I was like, David just got back on to know some stuff.
That's awesome.
Sometimes I can see stuff. I still mess up quite a bit though. That's actually how you learn a lot of times. I make plenty of mistakes.
Mhm. Well, cool. That's awesome.
Just try hiding it from everybody, right?
So I know David's turned in his fluency review. Has anybody else?
No.
No.
What?
This week.
Yeah.
I know, I totally had my mind set on Monday, but here it is Thursday and I just barely got it in. So fingers crossed it works. Okay, so we've got Cade presenting too.
Yep. I can present. Let me share my screen. Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we kind of talked about CSS, styling a night with animations and transitions. And I'm going to go over some of those in JavaScript events. And I decided not to do a PowerPoint as well because I thought there was more to be learned in looking at the code and how it responded than just talking about definitions, I guess. So if you have some syntax questions, I'll try to answer them, or David can answer them. So let's get going here. Can you see, is the size of my font here okay for you to see on the NetBeans side?
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay. All right. So the first ones that we'll talk about is the on mouse down and on mouse up. And the way I understood it, all these events are HTML events, but when we employ JavaScript, we can manipulate the events to do something for us rather than just to be an event on the screen. And so we'll work on these mouse on and or mouse down and mouse up. So if we come over here to this paragraph, which we see referenced over here in the NetBeans part of it, you put your cursor over it and then press down, and you can see that I've styled it here with this function, that when the event of mouse happens, the color goes to white. So when I click down, it goes white, or it disappears, for lack of better words. When I let the mouse up, that event triggers the font to go orange. And so that's styled right here in the JavaScript, not in a separate CSS file. Any questions on that one? I don't know, Abby, if something like that would work for your family tree, or a variation of it, if you could employ that JavaScript function there in a variation to get what you want to do.
Down with it. I might try that toggle.
Yeah, toggle works pretty good. I used that in a class last semester, and it was just a CSS styling. So.
Okay.
Alrighty, the next one is the onload, and this, according to the matrix for what we were assigned to do, is a mobile function as well. And so you see over here, the sentence here, you may now play the video. When you refresh that, as the video loads, you see that takes a little bit for it to come up. And so it's an onload function from this iframe up here, that while this is loading, and I guess I should have found a video that took a little while longer to load so you could really see it, but the video loads and displays before this sentence is displayed, telling the user that they can, in this instance, play the video. That's kind of a handy little thing if you had a page with some videos on it that you wanted to prompt the user to wait, or whatever variation of that you wanted to do. The last two are the animation parts that were assigned. And this is all styled here in the HTML under this line of code here. So I have the box, whoops, I have the box, and then the image here, the orange block. Okay, so the function here is just listening for this image, or getting this element, the image, and then you're setting this frame to 5 seconds, and then I just set the position of it, that when it reaches this 500, and maybe I can show you, I think that's up here. Okay, yeah, so on the box, the height is 200, the width is 700, and then the image is 200. And so it is monitoring off of this left side here. And when you click it to slide, let me do that again. Sorry. When you click it to slide, it's tracking that position across there, so that when the left corner of the orange box gets to 500, it quits the animation. Does that make sense?
Well, I want to see a picture under there. It's a little surprise, a little show.
Well, the only picture I have is on this transition end, and I should have I actually tried to put an image in here, but I couldn't get the image to fit in the box, and for sake of pulling my hair out in time, I just put it as text. So
Well, it's a cool on and off switch right now.
yeah, it's a good on and off switch. So, and this is referencing the hover. So when you hover over this image, the text will appear, and it's transitioning at the end of that. And so you hover, it takes 2 seconds for what I have set in the transition, and then it'll transition over that. And if you notice, when I move away from it, it just goes to black. Then when I go back on it, transitions. I'm assuming back over that 2 second period, it changes the color to gray when I hover. And that is about the extent of my knowledge on this topic. So if you have any other questions, we can discuss them.
Awesome. Some more things to learn here.
Yeah, I have one question for you guys with this. So this is styled in the HTML. Is this code up here still considered CSS, or is it just a styling function within the
It's
HTML file?
inner HTML CSS.
Okay, so it's still a version of CSS because the syntax is all the same as a normal CSS file.
Right.
I just didn't know
Right.
how.
That's what the style tag does, as well as the
Mhm.
script tag. The script tag is for JavaScript.
Okay.
Let's see, but it looks like you've got a script right up above the style. Where's
This script here.
then your ending script tag is not until down below.
Okay, so I don't know how many different scripts in here. So I have this script showing what the type will be. And then if you come down here to the body, every time I employed a function, I tagged it in a script. And I don't know if that's, on the examples that I was learning from, that's kind of how they had it structured.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's proper or if that's just the way they were doing it.
Let's say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the script tag up at the very top, right under the header, or within the header,
Right here.
it does define it as being JavaScript, but I think that that's for a file that's outside of your HTML. Does that sound right, guys?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's usually you add that in if you're pulling one in from somewhere else.
So I would
Like your CSS, you know?
Yeah.
Or you put just kind of like you did before, where you have script and you just put your JavaScript in between.
Uh-huh.
I believe in general, when it sees script, it assumes it's probably JavaScript. It's just kind of what it assumes. And so just between your script tags is where you put your JavaScript. Or if you want to, you can use the script, if I remember correctly, to pull it in from another file. Because I usually pull it in from another file.
So let's make sure I understand this. This script up here would be like an import from another file. For the context that I have it in, this one is unnecessary because it's not pulling in from any other file. It's what I have local here.
It's not pulling anything in, and there's nothing in between the scripts. Like you could put a script in between there too. You could put JavaScript in there in between the script tags, just like you put JavaScript in between your other script tags.
Yeah.
Let me see. How do I pull?
If I don't have this line up here, every time I put script down here, it's still going to realize that it's JavaScript and it won't throw any errors.
Right. And I think I want to say that you can just have the one script tag in there. If you're building a lot of features, I would say or components, I would say do different files on the outside of the HTML. But if you're just doing like little sections, you would just need one script tag, not multiple.
Okay.
Usually kind of keep your JavaScript together. It depends though. Like with the class, if you want to kind of connect it and show it right next to like the buttons and stuff you have, then that's fine too, as you're kind of showcasing this is connected to this, this is connected to this.
And that was the main reason I did it this way tonight, is so that you didn't have to search to find it. But you're saying, all these functions could be piled in a spot, not spread out like I've got them.
Yeah, usually what I've heard, trying to remember, it seems like don't remember which class it was, but it seems like one of them I took. They talked about at least right now, where they usually put the script is like right at the end. So you pull one right at the end of like right before you in the body here. It's usually they just put the JavaScript right there and include it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because they're saying render the HTML and then the JavaScript. That's why you'd put it down at the bottom. And I learned that from a web development bootcamp to put it at the bottom. But then in class last semester for 230.
Yeah.
230 or 160, I can't remember. But we had to put it at the top because otherwise it wasn't working for us. I think a lot of people had that problem, and I really don't know why that was exactly, but we were putting it at the top.
Yeah, I think I was in that same class, Abby, and I had the same problem. Because the instructor showed you to put it he showed you to put it at the bottom, and then someone figured out.
I think he was, but then everybody's else code wasn't rendering, so we put it at the top, and it worked great.
Yeah. Yep, I remember that.
So
A lot of the examples that I've been finding, they put it in the head. Like they preload all of the function stuff and then they just wait for variables or calls to use it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like to keep mine separate. So I have, from what I've heard, you kind of keep you have one file for your CSS in one file, and you have your JavaScript in one file. And
oh yeah, I think we're just talking about referencing the files.
It seems like when I first did this, I heard it was recommended that you put it up at the top, but that was years ago.
Yeah, and the code I believe does render in the order that you put those references in. So,
David, do you find it easy to understand when you put the JavaScript in a different file, or do you have to kind of search back and forth between the HTML and the JavaScript to put the two back together in your mind?
I'm used to having the multiple files open. I'm used to having tabs, and I have multiple tabs open all at once, and then I just kind of go from tab to tab all the time.
Okay.
yeah, in NetBeans, I'm not sure. They've got tabs there, but I think in brackets that you can see, you can open up files side to side. And so that way you can compare and see where you're going with it. But
Yeah.
I don't know if NetBeans allows you to do that.
I don't know. I haven't figured it all.
Yeah, it does. I'm doing it right now. So you can even go up and down on it too.
Right.
Like different layers?
You could probably have even like 4.
Oh yeah, you can do it however you want. You can move this all around. You can go over here with it, and then it splits them 3 ways, or like this, or you can go on top of that one, and it pushes that one to the bottom. So the CSS drop down here. You can do all kinds of stuff. I had on was it 2 semesters ago? I had 6 open. I had like 3 across the top from one side, 3 across the bottom, and I was comparing stuff. It really useful.
Yeah.
How long would it take you to explain how to do that?
The tab that's here, and you slide it around. You grab it like you're moving a tab from Chrome or something like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you just drop it.
Are you in NetBeans,
Different
Alex?
NetBeans,
oh,
yeah.
okay. That makes sense.
You just you grab the tab, and then you move it where you want, and then it just does it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's simple.
I like Alex's extension on your dark theme. I don't love the white.
Like Dracula or something. I'm not sure.
It's easier to see.
Darkula, yeah. Way easier to see. I know. I like it. I'm always up really late, and I don't want to have like the eyeball burn, so this is better.
Right. Well, cool.
So who has next week?
So I'm going to present both of my presentations next week because I think that it might flow a little bit better. Plus, I needed some more time to prepare for it. So I figured since you 3 were going to be presenting and Justin dropped the class, I could just take his spot next week. So
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good.
yeah, it's me and somebody else. I don't.
I know I have one.
It's David. Okay,
I'm doing every other week, so
nice.
I have to look at what I'm doing again next week. It might be one of the topics I haven't looked at yet. I know I grabbed at least a couple I think that I haven't done much with, so.
Yeah. What level are you at on your fluency reviews?
I think I was about 60% is what he graded me at.
And is that an overall or is it just for each topic?
Overall, there's some topics. There's still topics that are at 0, and others that he graded really high. So they're kind of all over the place. I know at least 2 topics that I'm going to have to look at and bring those ones up.
And so do you just have to have I don't really understand the percentages yet or didn't look into it. Do you just have to have 100% to receive a good grade or?
Here, let me open it up and look at this and.
Guys, I'm gonna go ahead and drop off. I've got something I've got to get done in the next 2 hours, so I'm gonna hop out.
No worries. Is it project management?
It's whatever 381 is.
Oh, business intelligence.
Yes, project management. Other members of my team are doing this week, so.
Hey, me too.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Richard.
You too. Bye.
So how it works is like we just get different points for them. To get like for the group project by the end of week, I think it's 10, you have to have everything up to basic.
Okay.
And even after that, you can continue, I believe, submitting and getting a higher grade even after that. I don't know if even our group project kind of adds up some of those points too as you do stuff.
I thought that I had read somewhere that it was like if you don't
make it up to the basic by the end of week 6, you don't get to work on the group project.
And so that just means
working on it
points.
and get up to the basic, but the highest grade you can get is a C, if I remember correctly. So you want to get at least everything up to the basic level, and then you can keep
by week
working
6?
on it. And,
By week 10.
By week 10.
By week
Oh.
10.
Okay,
By
I was like, week 6 is now.
I know. I freaked out for a second there. I was like, whoa, wait.
So I might have been looking, and the basic says 6 points.
Okay.
Yeah, I was referring to that and looking at
You
that.
just made my heart skip a beat.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I might have said the wrong thing. Yeah, so you want to get, if you get skilled on everything, it's 10 points for that category. And so if you get 10 points on everything, you have 100%. So you just kind of add up the points, and that's how many points you get for that assignment.
Okay, cool.
And he just, as you turn them in, he just kind of bumps some of them up and keeps adjusting it. So I turned in my second one last week.
Okay.
So I'm trying to go on a 2-week, every 2 weeks, basically when I teach. After I teach like that Friday or Saturday, I'll turn in some code.
That's a good idea. Yeah, from what I understand, I guess our professional scores go down if we hadn't submitted anything up to this point. So hopefully I can catch up, but I think my professional points are going to go down.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know there's some stuff that he said we didn't have to really submit till like week 8 or something. But I can't remember what that was. Maybe that was some of the professional stuff, and it's basically the codes right now that we're working on and just submitting those. And then the other stuff, I think we just kind of try keeping track, and then we'll just kind of submit all of that at once.
Oh, so you haven't submitted a professional?
I've submitted the, what's this one called? Let me look. There's a couple different assignments. So I have submitted the code topics and app design and creation assignment. So that's the one that we keep submitting. I
Oh.
did submit the professional behavior assignment once, and I asked if that's kind of what he wanted. And he gave me feedback. Let's see here. Yeah, he said, "Is this what you want?" He said, "Yeah." He's like, "This is a good start." He said, "I do not enter a grade for this yet on this item until around week 9. Heading in the right direction. I don't expect weekly submissions with this topic. If you collect your activities and then post them around 8 or 9 again, that will be great."
Oh, okay.
So that's with the professional. Yeah. So it says I usually grant 2/3 of the points after week 9 and then the rest at the end of the class.
Okay.
I don't quite know exactly the difference between professional scheduling and professional behavior. I haven't done anything on the professional scheduling. So maybe I'm missing stuff too. I thought at one point I read that basically it's the code topics is all that we really need to be submitting right now. I could be
Okay.
wrong on that, but that was my understanding of, at least at the moment. Then once we get to about week 8 and 9, we need to start submitting some of the professional stuff as well.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay. Well, I looks like we had everybody here in our group tonight, which was awesome. But I'll post the video anyway for people to look back at code since I recorded this, so I'll get that up there.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I finally figured out how to do it consistently.
Works
It's
pretty
just,
good.
I feel like
Maybe
getting in
the
there is
rest of
not
us should figure that out. That's
so friendly. So, anyways. Okay, have a good night, guys, and I will see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.